week 2 of the fantasy football season, and here's a few wide receivers I will bench this week. The first guy, Hunter Renfrow of the Las Vegas Raiders. So week 1 was a tough ball game for Hunter Renfrow. Only 3 catches, 21 yards on 6 targets. And obviously right now he's the number 3, number 4 option on this offense, with Davante Adams and Darren Waller getting more target looks than Hunter Renfrow. So right here, after coming off a bad week 1, I could see him having a good week 2 here versus the Arizona Cardinals, who gave up a lot of yards, and a lot of different receivers had decent ball games for the Kansas City Chiefs versus them in week 1. But right here, I don't know what we're going to get from Renfrow. Last season was a great year, but obviously Davante Adams, each game, he's going to get targeted 10 to 15 times. And Waller, he's going to get targeted as well, anywhere from 5 to 10 times per ball game. So right now, him looking like the odd man out, he's a guy, yeah, I still would start him if you don't have any other options. But if you have some decent receiving options or playing 2 receiver leagues with 1 flex, there's no reason to start Hunter Renfrow in that format. And he's a wide receiver that I can't trust after what I saw week 1 to start this week if I have better options. The next wide receiver, Rashad Bateman of the Baltimore Ravens. So Rashad Bateman, he had a good week 1, but to be honest here, he only saw 5 targets, 2 catches, 59 yards and a touchdown. And that was a 40-yard plus touchdown he had in week 1 versus a weak New York Jet defense. Right here in week 2, he's got a tougher matchup versus a pretty solid Miami Dolphin defense here that looked great in week 1 versus the New England Patriots. And like I mentioned, this team's built off of Lamar Jackson running the football and Mark Andrews getting the majority of the receptions. We saw Devin Duvernay have a great ball game in week 1. But right here, I just can't trust any Baltimore Raven receiver, to be honest here. Lamar Jackson looks to run way too much. This offense is built on short yardage passes and built around Mark Andrews work in the middle of the field and running the football. So right here, it was good to see Bateman have a good fantasy day, but if it wasn't for that deep ball, he didn't do nothing in week 1. Here with a tougher matchup in week 2 than he had in week 1. And just the way this offense is laid out over there in Baltimore, he's a wide receiver I will bench this week. The next wide receiver is Devonta Smith of the Philadelphia Eagles. So right here, Devonta Smith had the old goose egg in week 1 here for this Philadelphia Eagle team, where A.J. Brown, he got the share of the targets in this one, and he had a monster ball game going on over 150 receiving yards, and Dallas Goedert at 60 yards as well. So right here, Devonta Smith, 3rd or 4th option as well in his offense here. So after coming off a goose egg, there's no way I could trust him. Yeah, I could see Devonta Smith having a big ball game, no doubt about it. I'm not taking that away from him. But how could you really trust him in 10 and 12 team leagues after having a goose egg in week 1? And also, he only saw 4 targets in that one. And this Minnesota defense, not the best defenses, but a decent defense here, where I think in this one we're going to see more A.J. Brown. We're going to see more Dallas Goedert. Yeah, Devonta Smith, I could see him break one in this game, but I just can't trust him. There's so many good receivers this season in fantasy football and more consistent guys, because even last season in his rookie year, we saw up and downs with Devonta Smith. And another factor I didn't even mention, Jalen Hurts, he's going to run the ball at least 8 to 10 times per ball game as well, taking away from throwing the football, and including all the running backs getting work as well over there. So right here, I know it's a great matchup, but after what I saw in week 1, with Smith being the 4th or 5th option on this offense here, I just can't trust him in 10 and 12 team leagues. And he's a wide receiver I will bench this week. The next wide receiver is Robert Woods of the Tennessee Titans. So Robert Woods, I had good hopes for him in week 1, but he totally busted it out. I'm not saying to drop him or anything, but another guy, after coming off a performance versus a weak New York Giant defense in the secondary, only 1 catch for 13 yards and only 2 targets. And now he's got a tough matchup at one of his former teams, the Buffalo Bills, here in week 2, who pretty much shut down everything on that Rams offense besides Cooper Kupp, who went for the monster game. So right here, bad week 1 performance, a tough matchup here in week 2. And Ryan Tannehill's a quarterback I just can't trust to get the ball to his wide receivers. The only guy over the last few years he really got the ball to and was good was A.J. Brown, and obviously he's not there. And Robert Woods, he's not the type of receiver like an A.J. Brown, where he's a number 1 guy. He's more of a middle-of-the-pack wide receiver, slot type of guy with short routes, slants, intermediates, 10 and stop, comeback routes as well. And him and Tannehill just didn't hit in week 1. I could see Woods having a decent ball game, especially if we're going to see garbage time here. But he's another guy I just can't trust after coming off a low target game. And I think in this one, Tennessee's going to try to run the football more We saw in week 1, Derrick Henry, he didn't have a huge workload, but we saw Dontrell Hilliard and Phillips be the top 2 receivers on the roster in week 1. So right here with a tough game, and obviously a bad week 1 here, I just can't trust Robert Woods in this situation. And the final wide receiver I will bench this week's Drake London of the Atlanta Falcons. So Drake London had a good NFL debut with a solid ball game, 5 catches, 74 yards, but a very tough matchup. And with Jalen Ramsey most likely being on him in week 2 here at the Los Angeles Rams. So right here, Atlanta, their offense looked decent in week 1. Mariota got the ball to his wide receivers, even though Kyle Pitts had a bad ball game. But for the most part, he got the ball to his receivers and playmakers. Drake London looked pretty decent. But here I'm benching him with the tough matchup at Los Angeles. And with Marcus Mariota, a guy I can't count on, especially versus this defense, to get the ball to his playmakers. There's just no way I could start Drake London with confidence. Obviously, if you're in a pinch and you got no other options and you got no choice to start London, you start him. But this week here, I could see him having a pretty bad ball game with the things I mentioned. So that's a few wide receivers I will bench here for week 2 of the fantasy football season.